Do you see yourself as lazy and unmotivated when it comes to exercise? And if you do, I imagine you missed one of the key factors when you try to bring exercise into your life, and that is the motivational tools you need to do to make sure you do the work. So today I want to share 5 areas that you must focus on, the 5 key motivational tools that you must put in place when you bring an exercise habit into your life. So when we think about people who see themselves as lazy or unmotivated when it comes to exercise, often when they try to bring exercise into their life, they put their main focus into the program that they need to be successful with exercise. Now, don't get me wrong, you need a good program if you want to be successful with exercise. But a great program is never going to get you to get the results you want if you don't have the motivation to do the work. So while we want to have a good program, when we first navigate that bringing exercise into our lives, it's really important that we identify motivational tools that we're going to use to help us be successful. And I'm going to be honest, there's lots of motivational tools you can use, things like getting a mentor, things like getting involved in the group. But today I want to give you 5 specific tools that I think that you should be implementing when you're bringing exercise into your life. Let's have a look at it. Tool number 1, the comparison tool. Comparison is a thief of success. When we look at comparison, there's 2 types of comparison we see. The first is comparison to other people in our lives. And what's really interesting with this is we often look at people who are way above our level and we just feel that we're not good enough because we compare ourselves to them. And the second type of comparison is comparison to an earlier version of ourselves in our lives. You may have been a really fit person when you were younger and now you're not. And so you look back to the earlier version and you feel bad about yourself because of where you are right now. So here's a really good motivational tool that you can use. What you do is you grab your phone and you make a video describing really where you are right now with lots of detail. You're going to talk about your physical self. You're going to talk about the internal dialogue that happens inside your head with exercise. You're going to talk about how you're limiting your life because of your beliefs around your exercise. So as much detail as possible in this video. Then when you start your exercise journey, the only thing you're allowed to compare yourself to is that video. And this is a really great tool because let's say you've started your fitness journey and you've been doing it for 3 or 4 weeks, and instead of comparing yourself to the fitter people in your life or that earlier version of yourself, you go back and watch that video. You're going to feel good about yourself because in 3 or 4 weeks you would have made some progress. And when you watch that video, it's a reinforcing experience that you're doing really well on the journey that you are in right now. Your comparison is a comparison that makes you feel positive, that makes you feel you're on the right pathway and will keep you in your journey. So that's where a comparison for all journeys should start with a comparison video that describes where you are right now, and then as you walk down the pathway, you keep looking at the video to see your progress. Motivation tool number 2, and this is a really important one. This is the bad day tool. When we do exercise, we're going to have bad days. And one thing I've learned in dealing with lots of beginner exercises is that when they have one bad day, they can often quit exercise. You know, they might have a day where they just felt like absolute crap when they exercised and it was just an absolute disaster. And unfortunately for a lot of these people, they actually end up giving up on exercise altogether and quitting exercise. Now, I think the thing we need to acknowledge here is that we're all going to have bad days. Bad days are part of the exercise experience. And for those who are regular exercisers, we understand that, but we also know just turn up and do the next session the next day. So what's a good motivational tool for dealing with the bad day experience? Well, there's kind of a technique that I like to use, which is get back on the horse and keep it easy. So there's a few steps. First step is catch that you've had a bad day, acknowledge that you had a bad day, and then secondly, deal with the emotion of it, because often that can trigger internal thoughts which are bigger than what we've actually had. That might be that you might think, I always suck at exercise, I'm always going to fail. That's just working against you. So catch and deal with the emotion of it. Secondly, put all of your focus on making sure you turn up and do the next session. Now you can do this in both a practical and an emotional way. So practically, how can you guarantee you're going to turn up to the next session? And what emotional state do you need to put yourself in to make sure you turn up to the next session? The third step is to make the next session as easy as possible. I remember when I was doing Ironman triathlon, I was doing big training all the time and I'd have a bad day, and what I would do is I'd go, tomorrow I've got to go for a run, but I'm going to make it the easiest run I've ever done. I'm going to do a 15-minute run, which is way less than what I normally did, and you can plod that run. Now the point of this is we're trying to make the barrier to turning up to the next session as easy as possible. Because if you make it as easy as possible and you plan both practically and emotionally, you'll get out the door and you'll do the session. Now, what I've learned is that often when you get out the door, even if it's an easy session, you get back on the horse and you often do really well in that session and it keeps you in your journey. So that's the bad day technique. The next technique is what I call the consistency builder. And this is a really simple one. This is this old school, just ticking the checkbox. What you want to do is, I love the idea of momentum builds success. And what this means is that when we're stuck at something for a period of time, we're more committed to sticking at it because we've made momentum of success along the way. And when we think about a consistency builder, we're thinking back to the old star chart that we did with our kids when we were toilet training them. Basically, what you'll do when you start your journey is set up some type of measurement that shows you you're being consistent on your journey. You might put a tick box on your fridge, or you might have it in your office, a little thing that you tick after you do every exercise session. Now, when we look at the tick box methods, a couple of techniques that really help. First of all, have a reward system in place. It might be that when you tick 30 sessions of exercise off, you're going to buy yourself a really cool exercise gear or jersey or something like that. Or it might be that when you get to a certain level, you get to go out for dinner with a friend and celebrate your success. So you have a tick box that builds the consistency of your experience. And if you can build consistency of ticking those sessions off, what that does is it builds momentum and it creates stickiness for you turning up to exercise. It's a really cool tool that you could put in place. And let's be honest, we know that tick box methods work because we've used it many times in many people's lives. Motivation tool number 4. This is what I call preparing for tough conditions tool. Now, tough conditions can be faced in many ways. It can be the fatiguing day, that day when you're planning to exercise at the end of the day, but you've had a big day at work. It can be the bad weather day. You plan to go out for a walk or a run that night, and the weather's turned to custard, and suddenly you're talking yourself out of it. It can be the morning after a big night. You plan to do some exercise in the morning, but you had a big night. So these are tough conditions that a lot of people will often not exercise in because of the tough conditions push them away from exercise. Now, if you want to be successful in an exercise journey, what you've got to do is you've got to make sure you turn up day in, day out, even in the tough conditions. And a really good strategy to use in the tough conditions is, how will I feel after I've done this session? And what we're looking to do here is, let's say you wake up in the morning, you've had a big night out, you'd planned to do some exercise, and you're talking yourself out of it because it seems hard, it seems unenjoyable, and you're feeling tired and fatigued. Whereas if you were to sit down and spend a moment to go, well, if I went and did my exercise right now, and I did it at a level that was easier enough for me to do based on how I'm feeling, how would I feel when I got home from that session? Now, what we're doing here is we're using the feeling after the exercise session as a motivator in that moment. Now, everyone could probably acknowledge that when we get back from exercise, we always feel good about ourselves. So you can use that, how will I feel on the other side of exercise, to actually make you get out the door and do the exercise. So it's a really good strategy in those moments where you've got tough conditions in front of you. At the end of the fatiguing day, if you were to go, how would I feel if I just got out and did my exercise to an easy level right now? How would I feel at the other side of that? You're going to feel pretty good. And that becomes a motivator to you to get out the door. Now, a quick tip here, when you're in tough conditions, also lessening the expectation can also help. The last tool is what I call the success momentum builder. And this is what we do, is kind of using that, how would I feel at the end of it, is to, every time you've had a successful experience, is install it in your memory bank. So when you get in from your exercise session, remember how you feel. So we're not looking to the future here. It's actually when you get into your exercise session, once you're finished, spend a moment to actually capture that feeling. Because if we build that exercise as a positive experience that makes me feel great about myself, what's happening is you're building up this kind of thick memory bank of, I want to move towards exercise because my mind knows it's a positive thing in my life. So every time you have an exercise experience, my technique is to make sure I commit a minute or two at the end of the session to reinforce why it was a really positive experience in my day. Do you think if you include that every time you did exercise, then when you look towards exercise, it's not a daunting thing, it's actually something you want to move towards. Now, as you can see, these 5 motivational techniques are really important tools that we want to install. What were they? Well, first of all, we had the comparison tool. Then we had the bad days technique. Then we had the consistency builder. Then we had the tough moment strategy. And then lastly, the building success momentum tool. If you can inject these into an exercise experience, do you think you'd be more successful in placing exercise in your life? And ultimately the answer is yes. So your job is to start thinking about how you can implement these tools so you can become a fitter, higher level version of yourself and achieve fitness and health that maybe you're not at right now that you ultimately would desire. If you enjoy my pieces and you want to bring exercise into your life, you need to check out my book, I Will Make You Passionate About Exercise. This book is designed to be a step-by-step journey that teaches you the right lessons and experiences to guide bringing exercise into your life, not just for a moment, but where you get to the place where you have a long-term love of exercise. So you get fitter, you get healthier, you have great stress releases, and you feel amazing about yourself. This book has been hugely successful, getting to the top 10 in the world for health and fitness books. So if it's time for you to bring health and fitness into your life, go to Passion About Exercise, click on the link, go through the process, and you can be starting your journey of finding your love for exercise really soon.